What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the Pika Pika Papa, and on Friday, we did a very deep dive into Sword and Shield and how those top 20 singles cards from every set that has a booster box and the booster boxes themselves and how they performed month over month. But just understanding how they perform month over month isn't enough because we have been aggregating that data since September of 2023. So what we were able to do is take a look at how those performed from October to November, but then also compare that to some similar periods of time in the past. Because you, just like we all know that the market is starting to soften a little bit. But those of us who've been around for a while, we understand that this is just part of the normal cycle. The market's not crashing. There's no need to go out there and liquidate all of your Pokemon cards. Like, this is just a familiar pattern. So if you look what's on the screen right here, this is exactly how those top 20 singles cards in the Sword and Shield era have moved ever since September of 2023. So as you can see, we hit periods of support, spike, drop, support, spike, drop, yada, yada. But right now we're in a period where the prices are starting to come down. So what do we do? Well, if anything, since I've been through this cycle multiple times, I've learned a thing or two. And the thing that I do is, first, I don't panic, which I just talked about. Secondly, I don't touch the big chase cards right now. It might be, and I can totally relate to this, like it might be hard not to pull the trigger when you're seeing some of these big chase cards that you've coveted for so long. And you watch the price spike aggressively over the last 3 or 4 months, and now you're seeing it down 5, 10, 15, 20% in a short period of time. It might just be screaming with every ounce of your fiber to go out there and pull the trigger on the card. But again, if you look at the patterns from the past, they have a tendency to drop over a period of 3 to 4 months. So listen, I'm not touching any of the big chase cards, but that doesn't mean that I'm not buying. What I have seen in the past is that this is a phenomenal opportunity to jump in on some of these cards that are in the $15, $20 range. And we're going to talk about a bunch of them today. We've got some high flyers. We got a couple $100 cards in there that I think are a decent opportunity right now as well. But a lot of these are in that $20 range. Like, I think this is a phenomenal time while you're waiting on those big chase cards to come down to pull the trigger on some of these in the teens or the $20 price point, because I truly believe some of these represent some of the biggest upside over the next 3 to 5 years, right? We know the Moonbryon is what it is. We know the Gengar is what it is, right? We know the Giratina is going to be a monster. But if you can identify some of these cards in the $20, $25 range, I mean, they can represent huge upside. So today, we always follow up the month over month video with some cards that I have my eye on, and that's exactly the focus of today. But what I thought would be even more impactful, because you know I always love to explain the why more than just the what, is I'm going to go for a little walk, and it won't take long, but I want to look at some Sun and Moon cards, okay? And just look at some of their price points today, because a lot of these Sun and Moon cards, believe it or not, they were not highly desirable back in the day. So we'll start with Unified Minds and Cosmic Eclipse right here, right? Everybody hates rainbow cards. That's always been the narrative. But when you look up here in Unified Minds, right, you got the Latios rainbow card. And listen, Latios is a big Pokemon, but it's not a Charizard. It's not a Pikachu. It's not a Latios. It's not an Umbreon. Like, it's not up there in that echelon. Very popular, but still, that rainbow card is now at $52. And then over there, look, you got Executor, you got Raichu. Like, again, pretty big name Pokemon, but again, look at them, 123 for that Executor card. And then you got 285 for that Raichu card. So again, like, these are cards where the artwork is really awesome. The set is really awesome. And these have just done very well over the course of time. Then Cosmic Eclipse obviously is a monster set. And again, you got the Rainbow Charizard down there going for almost $100. My big call out, and I've talked about this I've just trickled this in videos over the last month or so, is these yellow border cards, like that Pulpit right there, the Pikachu right there, the Mimikyu right there, like, these are all $50 cards. The Pikachu's up over $135 right now. Like, I think there are a ton of cards like this, and we're going to look at a couple of them today. The Trainer Gallery cards from the Sword and Shield generation, like, I could totally see them following this path. And these are not, outside of the Pikachu, these are not, again, the biggest names, and that's what I want us to take away. Those are some of the lessons as we look at some of these cards that we're going to feature today. Same thing, we'll look at Unbroken, Celestial, and Lost Thunder here. I mean, Lost Thunder, heck, you got 2 Mimikyu cards. One's at $70, one's at $141. You got Professor Elm's Lecture right there, which is just shy of $100. Look at those Unbroken Bond cards, right? Marshadow and Machamp. Listen, love both of those characters, but they're not traditionally at the top of our most expensive Pokemon list, and that one's going for $211. Celestial Storm, again, you got 2 rainbow cards at the very top there, $215, $53. Then just the plain Jane full art Rayquaza going for $75. So these are some of the things that I keep in the back of my mind when I'm looking at these Sword and Shield Shield cards that are going for $20-ish range. Like, could they potentially grow into cards like this in the future? Now, the print runs are different. Just the collecting market as a whole is different versus where it was as Sun and Moon. So you got to take that with a grain of salt too. But I always love to take lessons from the past and apply them to the present. So before we get into the cards and start talking about the ones that I think are awesome, if you get into this video, if you're having fun, if you enjoy the content, hit a subscribe button or give us a thumbs up. Those two small things go a very long way in helping my small channel out. And as you can see, we always try and go the extra mile here for you. So with that out of the way, let's start looking at some of these. And believe it or not, the very first two I'm going with right here are from Chilling Reign. So you are going to see a very narrow focus in terms of set throughout the course of this video. You are going to see Chilling Reign. You're going to see some Lost Origin. You're going to see some Fusion Strike. There's even a couple Evolving Skies on here. You're going to see some Brilliant Stars. Like, I want to concentrate my money on cards right now. You're going to see some alt arts and you're going to see some trainer galleries. Like, those are the type of cards that I'm going after right now. And I know Calyrex might not be the biggest and baddest name out there either, but Chilling Reign is easily a top 5 Sword and Shield set, right? It has alt arts in it. Alt arts are going to be phenomenal further down. When I think about these cards, I think about the Executor card we talked about earlier. I think about the Raichu, although Raichu is a much bigger name, right? But I think about how, you know, a lot of those cards from the Sun and Moon era that were those different varieties, those tag team, they were almost tag team alt arts, right? Like, let's just call them what they were. Like, they were better artwork of the tag team variants out there. And those cards had performed really well no matter what Pokemon was on then. And these two right here, the Shadow Rider and the Ice Rider, these remind me of them. And when you think about where they're at from a 1-year price point, you are buying Shadow Rider up there for negative 3.41% versus where it was a year ago. There are very few Sword and Shield alt art cards out there right now that you can buy at a lower price than it was 1 year ago. And again, when you combine the fact that it's coming from Chilling Reign, I absolutely love it. Are these cards going to pop off overnight? Are these ones that are going to double to 50 bucks in the next 6 months? I absolutely don't think so. But again, while I'm waiting for some of the bigger cards to continue to fall, while the market as a whole is starting to soften a little bit and regress, these are the type of cards that I love to pick up. This is the perfect time, at least for me and my collecting and investing strategy. This is a great time to pick them up. And again, the Ice Rider right there, it is up over the last year, but it's only up 13.59%. So again, I think these are really cool cards, alt arts from Chilling Reign. Like, I think they have a very bright future. When? I don't know, but I guarantee that we're going to see some big growth from these down the line. Next one that I'm talking about right here, staying with Chilling Reign, and I've talked about this card a lot, is the Galarian Zapdos V, and this is the alt art, and I absolutely love this artwork. The other thing that I like is it's got a pretty stable price point. You know, we've looked at a bunch of different cards over the last month. We've seen price spikes up and down and all kinds of volatility. This thing saw a early price spike in early 2025, then it worked its way down, and it has been stuck right at that $50 mark for a very long time. And while that might turn some people off, that is what I love. I love to see support lines form like this because it makes me think that when we see this next period of price appreciation, which as you saw in the beginning, like, we will see this again. When we see that, I think this is going to be one of the cards that gets lifted up overall. Again, Chilling Reign's an incredible set. When you think about the top 10 Pokemon out there, I usually reference and wrap my mind around the most graded ones. Zapdos is always one of the most graded characters at PSA, which goes to tell me that there's big global demand for it. So lots of love for this card. Love the support line, love the set, love the character. Artwork's awesome. You can do far worse with $50 than picking this card up right now. Next one that we're going to talk about, okay? Lost Origin. And I think Lost Origin, we're going to talk about another Lost Origin card here in a minute, so I don't want to spoil the thunder, but I think Lost Origin is an absolute giant. And I know booster boxes are already reflecting it, but I think there's even more upside, which is insane to say. When you think about the depth of the Lost Origin set, when you think about how I was referencing those yellow border cards earlier, we're going to see some yellow border cards from Lost Origin that I think have the artwork to do really, really well. Then you got this Rotom V, which is very similar to what we just saw with that Zapdos card, right? And you see that it had the spike earlier in the year, worked its way down, and now it has found this very strong support line right in the $20 range. I will say this, though, if you were to break this graph down into the last 3 months, it is upward and the right. The market is already starting to pick up this card. I would say that if this is something that you're interested in, even though the broader market is coming down, if again, look at the 3-month graph of this one's actually starting to come up in value. I think it has flown under the radar for far too long. Rotom's a very popular Pokemon, right? So I think that this card is already starting to gain momentum in a downward market, which is something you don't see every day. But again, at $25 for an alt art from one of the best sets in the Sword and Shield era, my gosh, it is just absolutely screaming an incredible opportunity while the market continues to soften a little bit. And I talked about the yellow border cards, and unless you're unfamiliar with Lost Origin, you probably knew this is where I was going, but you have the 3 trainer gallery cards. You got the Charizard, you got the Gengar, and you got the Pikachu. The Gengar is the most expensive. Pikachu comes in at number 2, and then the Charizard actually comes in at number 3 right now. Yes, it's up 140% over the last year, but it is a $15 card, and I just think all 3 of these have huge upside. The artwork on that Gengar is absolutely insane, right? Except it's a $30 card right now. I was trying to keep the prices down a little bit lower. So this $15 price point right here, I think is very approachable. Again, when you think about all of those yellow border cards that we saw from Cosmic Eclipse early on, those are all up in the $50 range. And Charizard, matter of fact, the Pikachu is up at $130 from that Cosmic Eclipse set. And I would argue that Charizard is as big of a name, if not a bigger name, than Pikachu. So when you think about the upside potential for this card, man, and picking it up at $15 in a down market, absolutely love it. So really cool artwork, really great opportunity in the long run. Very excited to be able to highlight this one. We're gonna do one more before we get into the next thing. And the reason I'm doing this is because obviously N has had a whole lot of love here in some recent sets. And obviously we have an N Zekrom, which is going to be a promo card coming out relatively soon. And so I think this card from Brilliant Stars coming in at $10 is going to get a whole lot of love. The artwork is incredible and is one of the most popular trainers out there. Zekrom is obviously a very, very popular Pokemon. Again, this thing has been stuck in that $10 range for most of 2025. I would not be surprised if as we get into the beginning of 2026 and a little bit beyond that, as we get deeper and deeper into these mega series, then where you don't start to see cards like this really start to gain some traction. It might not be an overnight gain. I mean, I think all of us are going to have to challenge ourselves to get out of this mentality where we want immediate gains. Like that's not healthy. It's not good for the hobby, to be honest with you. Like I would love to get to a space where we're starting to see single digit gains. Like that's fine. I'm totally okay with that. But we'll have to see. Right now, things are just popping off. So this card, I think, has a very bright future. I think there's a lot of macro momentum that's going to come up behind it and help push it up. So really cool card to highlight. And again, coming in at $11 right now. Man, what a great buy from Brilliant Stars, which is a phenomenal set. I could go on and on. Really, really cool card. Really great price point. Next one that we're talking about right now. Yes, I did it. You know I love Brilliant Stars. You know I've talked about it for the last 2 years. I highlighted some rainbow cards earlier on, and this card right here coming in at $57. The market, or at least the hobby, in the beginning did not enjoy it very much. It started off even more expensive than the alt art, which quickly flipped. The alt art quickly took over the #1 spot, and this card has been in the $50 range for, this graph shows a year, but really it's been there for what feels like forever, maybe a year and a half, 2 years at this point. And again, do I see this card blowing up into $200, $300 card further down the road? I absolutely do not. Could this get to a $100 card? For sure, I could totally see that. Could you double your money on this card? Without a doubt. Now, I will tell you this, there are a ton of these in PSA 10 holders right now, just like the alt art of the Charizard, okay? So we're in a different era in terms of grading. I did a whole video on that not long ago where we compared the grading volume to Sword and Shield, and we actually compared it to Scarlet and Violet as well, because Scarlet and Violet grading volume is even more ridiculous. But this card right here, again, with enough time behind it, I think is going to do just well. And when you think about the market that we're in right now, this is going to show some stability around the $50 range. There's just not a lot of risk with it at $50. Like this will never, as far as I'm concerned, and never is a long time, so I shouldn't say that, but it would be a very, very challenging market for this card to eventually drop below $50, a market that I personally don't foresee in the future. So when we're in a volatile market with prices coming down, super stable card with some really cool potential long-term upside. Next ones that we're talking about, and this is the final ones right here, is you have to talk about Evolving Skies. So we've seen what Team Up has done with booster boxes up over $9,000 right now. You can't compare Team Up and Evolving Skies, right? If you're not familiar, Team Up was actually very short printed compared to its peers, so that just kind of adds to the mystique and the awesomeness of that. Plus sealed collecting wasn't then what it is now, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, we're still talking about the 2 biggest sets from the 2 awesome eras. And so you got this Glaceon V alt art. And again, when you look at it, think about how aggressive prices have been moving. Yes, you're paying a 35% premium versus where it was a year ago, but I don't care. This is $106 right now, and I am not saying that's not a lot of money. That is a ton of money. I understand that, but my gosh, when I think about these alt arts in the Evolving Skies space, like I just think these things are going to be gold way, way down the road. Then you got the Leafeon over there. Same thing, more aggressive of a jump right there. Okay, so this one's up 59%. over the last year. But what you can see is you can see that it spiked, it came down, and it really hit that support line, right? Those are the support lines I'm talking about. We called this card out when it hit that support line, and now it's spiked up, and now it looks like it's trying to find a support line at $125, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But if this one starts to flatten out at 125, and if that Glaceon starts to flatten out right at 100, I truly believe those could represent some really, really cool buying opportunities. And who knows what the future holds, but we might not see those prices further into the future. So really cool video. I think this was a ton of fun to look at these cards. We're going to have to be very strategic, at least I am, with the way that I spend my money coming up. I know that obviously there's a lot of Mega Series stuff I want to get my hands on, but I also don't want to miss out on some of these golden opportunities to pick up these incredible cards from the Sword and Shield era, which in my mind still feels like it was yesterday, but in reality, it's way in the rearview mirror. So lots of fun stuff ahead. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, hit a thumbs up or hit a subscribe button. It goes a long way in helping me out. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Most importantly, you have an epic rest of your day. I'll talk to you later, everybody. See you. Bye.